Hello, everybody. Welcome to another week here at Post Wrestling. I am John Pollock alongside Wai Ting, coming out of a very busy weekend. Hello, Wai.
Hey, John. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How was your weekend?
It was pretty good. Yeah. I watched some F1.
Oh, okay.
And
I hope your weekend was better than Ferrari's.
Well, yeah. I guess I didn't have any engine failures. I suppose so. Yeah, it was pretty good. How was yours?
Well, it was great. I had a very good weekend. It was very nice out. We went out for quite a while. We attempted to go. We went to like the waterfront area and then decided let's go grab a drink somewhere. And we brought both of our kids and realized, okay, their ability to sit at tables is about 12 minutes, and then we've got to get going. So it was I will order this drink, and can I have the bill with it, please? And go as fast as you can. You're
probably going to have to wait a couple more years before you can actually enjoy the drink.
Yes. So there you go. That was, but yeah, it was a fun weekend. There was a ton of shows going on, but we're going to get into all of them here. But I also want to point everyone to the schedule up at postwrestling.com. I'm not going to go through everything here, but we have a really packed week coming up, both on the site and here on the daily news show. We're going to be joined by many guests this week on the news show and some highlights for Post Wrestling Cafe members. We are going to be back on Tuesday night with Rewind Away, chatting Money in the Bank 2016. Then on Thursday, it is a Wai Ting doubleheader, as we are going to have the wellness policy with Wai and Jordan Goodman, and you guys are doing a film review, but not just a film review. You're also going to be chatting with the director of said film. Is this accurate?
That is correct. Yeah. It is Pride Month, of course. So there is a new professional wrestling documentary focused on LGBTQ plus professional wrestlers called Out in the Ring, and we'll have the chance to discuss the film and speak about it with director Ryan Levy. So looking forward to that. And our man Neil will be joining us as well.
Our man Neil also on the wellness policy. You've got MCU later, Rewind to SmackDown, and I will also be doing a Slammiversary post show on Sunday night for members at postwrestlingcafe.com. The whole lineup is up there on the site, so check it out. That's right, Misawa and Kobashi versus Kawada and Taue will be discussed on the long and winding Royal Road. So that's a great excuse if you want to sit down and watch some classic Misawa. Today, the unfortunate anniversary, 13 years since his passing in 2009, where I was at the International Boxing Hall of Fame weekend and got that news that he had died.
I was with you.
Yes, you and I were together on that trip as we were trying to track down Lennox Lewis to get a sit-down interview with him that we were assured would be no problem, and turned out to be quite a problem, but we managed.
Yeah, it was Morrow that actually called us to let us know about it.
That's right. He called us and let us know the news. And yes, we felt very detached from everything that was going on that weekend in Canastota, New York.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go over more of the schedule tonight, but let's dive into Dominion from Sunday. A pretty newsworthy show from New Japan Pro Wrestling at Osaka-jo Hall, and they had 6,068 was the announced attendance, and this was headlined by Kazuchika Okada and Jay White for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. And while I think some saw it as a possibility, I don't know if it was the prevailing thought that Jay White would come out of this as the IWGP champion, but that was in fact the case after a 36-minute and 4-second match. And this was certainly the lengthiest match on the show. It seemed that everything was geared towards this main event getting as much time as possible, which sometimes has its positives and negatives with the long, drawn-out main event. But I really enjoyed this match quite a lot, and I was going into this aware of the winner, aware of the length, and sometimes that can impact your viewing. It did not for me, and featured the counter at the end by Jay White, stopping the Rainmaker. This was after a sequence of Okada leading into the Rainmaker, which was stopped at the Blade Runner and pinning him in 36:04. So Jay White is your IWGP champion going into Forbidden Door, which opens up the possibilities of a 3-way or even a 4-way if you incorporate Adam Cole, Hangman Page, and Kazuchika Okada into that IWGP title picture.
Very possible. Yeah, I think coming out of this, the result is probably the most surprising thing coming out of it, with a bit of a, I would say, misdirection from Hangman Page on Dynamite, calling out Okada, of course. Um, I don't mind the direction at all, but personally, I would much prefer it if they didn't go the four-way route, and instead maybe it opens the door, no pun intended, for Okada to have his own singles match, that maybe against a more of a dream match caliber opponent than even Hangman Page. That's the direction that I'm hoping that they go to, and then maybe eventually you do Tanahashi versus Page. The match itself, I was not a fan.
No.
I did not like it. It, to me, what stood out about it was, I mean, I think Jay White's charisma and confidence is the highest that I've ever seen it in him at this point. I really like him as, a top guy in this sort of position, and his counter against, somebody who's more of a stoic personality like Kazuchika Okada always makes him stand out a bit more. It feels like, he's doing really well to me as the leader of the Bullet Club. But the match itself was like, what you're going to get with these Okada main events. The first 20 minutes are pretty much throwaway. If you really, really study them, maybe you'll get, some morsel of like interesting content that plays towards the finish. But the rest of it was just, I think, as cookie cutter as you get with an Okada main event. Great, maybe final 10 minutes, an excellent final 3 minutes, I would say. But the rest of it, I just thought it was boring.
See, I did not sense that with the early portions of this, mainly because of all of the damage to the ribs of Okada from the suplex into the guardrail, and I just thought his selling was tremendous. Everything was geared around the ribs, and you had him playing Jay White playing off of Tanahashi at ringside as well. That I quite got into it, just all of the little things of Jay White attacking the ribs. But I also understand that Jay White is not a style that suits everybody's liking. I'm not going to go out on a ledge and always defend these 36 plus minute matches. I think that's a real long investment to be asking your audience to engage in. That if you want to shave down that time, I can certainly see that as a worthy criticism of the match. But I found it to be a match that I really got into. I thought that, I think if I was watching this live, I think there would have been a little added drama, because I think you established Jay as a very credible threat in this match to win if you were not going in with the outcome already figured out for you. But yeah, I thought that this followed everything in a pretty strong fashion, but it's not going to be the style of match that is going to work for everybody. As you see this way, do you see this as Jay White clearly going into G1 as the champion? Like, I do not sense them doing some quick title reign here for Forbidden Door.
No,
I think that would really just negate beating Okada for no reason if you were to do that.
Yeah, I don't see Okada winning it back. I don't see Page winning it, or anybody else. So yeah.
Is this more interesting of for G1 of having Jay White with the title as opposed to Okada, or does it not even matter?
I don't think it matters to me. It would have been the same. We all know, whoever's going to hold it now is likely to. I mean, they might retain it all the way until Wrestle Kingdom, but we're probably about to see a few more changes until then. So I don't think it matters right now.
Afterward, Jay White cut a promo calling this the Switchblade era and tells Hangman that he had to run off to another company to shine because he couldn't shine here. He congratulates Adam Cole on winning the Owen tournament, and he says the Bullet Club members say that no one in AEW is on Jay White's level, and White took the U.S. title from Kenny Omega, and he left after that. And maybe without that loss, AEW doesn't exist. I guess forgetting the fact that Omega did stick around after and stayed until he lost the IWGP title to Tanahashi. So maybe Tanahashi deserves that credit. But nonetheless, setting up a bunch of future potential programs is Jay White as the new IWGP champion. Second from the top was
to me the best part about the entire thing were White's promos, not just the one in the ring, but the one in the back as well. He's really been on fire, and it felt very much like a promo. I really do wonder how much of the Japanese audience itself is following what's currently going on in AEW, but this felt very much like it was like almost like an AEW promo, like more so catering towards a Forbidden Door build. And I think the guy sounds so incredibly smooth, and with the championship, even though maybe an Okada versus Page would have been a bigger star powered type of driven match. I think with Jay White with the championship versus Hangman Page, it poses a possibility to tell more engaging stories with the both of them cutting promos back and forth, although you don't have that much time before the show.
Yeah, I don't want to cast judgment until the match announcement is made and we know officially what the match is. But I would say if we're getting a 3-way or a 4-way, I think it goes back to my criticism I brought up last week. And I just feel like it's a match that very much feels like we don't have the conviction to beat somebody. And we're going to put someone like an Adam Cole in this match that is there for that specific function to get pinned, rather than just doing Okada and Page, where I don't feel they want to be, either side wants that person to lose at this moment. Each are coming off of major losses.
I mean, I think any sort of multi-man match will be somewhat disappointing, honestly. On a show that's supposed to feel different from, I think, your usual co-branded shows where you look for these sort of outs. I mean, I think we're all hoping that AEW is giving us a number of, singles matches with like definitive outcomes rather than these sort of like, I don't know, cop outs, to not having to book somebody. So I certainly hope they don't go the multi-man direction, even if it's just Cole.
Yeah. Will Ospreay and Sonata for the United States Championship, 13 minutes that they go. And this featured Sonata after Ospreay landed off a backflip onto his knee, selling the knee throughout the match, and also attacking the previously injured orbital bone of Sonata with this hook kick that set up an Oscutter 2 count. Sonata paying tribute to his mentor, Muto, with a Muto moonsault. This just hours within Muto's retirement announcement. And we saw Ospreay kick out of an O'Connor roll and then pop up forearm, hidden blade, leading to the Stormbreaker. And Ospreay wins the United States Championship. How do you think he'll vacate it?
Jeez. Well, I certainly hope it's not health related, because this poor man has gone through enough. First of all, I mean, I thought it was a very good match in the context of the show, maybe in the context of Sonata versus Will Ospreay. I mean, I have to imagine the man coming off of that kidney infection this close, he has to still be feeling the effects of it. But even a Will Ospreay at like 80 or 90% is most people's performance of a lifetime. So again, there's a better match that probably exists between these two, but considering the circumstances, I mean, I think Will Ospreay did tremendously. Let's hope this is an end to whatever curse has been going on with this poor United States Championship. I wonder if it means that, he's more likely to have a singles match at Forbidden Door.
Yeah, and just to go over the schedule, like this guy was in Independence, Missouri this past Wednesday and did the 6-man on Rampage, flies to Japan to do this show. He's coming back to do GCW this weekend, and depending on when he gets back, I guess you could theorize he might be on Dynamite this week or Rampage as they're building up Forbidden Door. So like that's the other thing is like you have some of these talents that are just on airplanes bouncing back and forth between the US and Japan, and he's sort of at the forefront of that. Tama Tonga and Carl Anderson for the Never Openweight Championship, playing off of their long history between one another, which was outlined by the commentators, and Tama Tonga inheriting the gun stun when Carl Anderson left. So this was a match of the two going for the gun stun. We had multiple blocks from the gun stun, Carl hitting the Bernard driver for a near fall. And then as Gallows gets involved, when the referee is checking on Carl's mouth that he is injured, Carl runs into the ring and is nailed with a gun stun by Tama Tonga, but this allows Carl to capitalize and hit the gun stun, pinning Tama Tonga in 16:28 to win the Never Openweight Championship. And Carl Anderson looks into the camera and says that even after COVID, my wind is better than most of the wrestlers out there, which was then topped by his backstage interview explaining that when there's enough people in the stands, I'll turn it on. 200, 300 people, I'm good. But tonight there were several thousand, so he decided to work tonight. That was his explanation.
6,000 to be exact.
6,000, yes.
Yeah, which is still like about half of what they were doing pre-pandemic. But I mean, maybe on the mend, at least New Japan is. Yeah, I think a lot of us were looking to see if like somehow being in a New Japan setting will unlock maybe something special within Carl Anderson. And I can't necessarily say that I saw it here. Like this felt like a decent match, but I think below the New Japan single standard. And and maybe some of that, is due to so much of the dependence on the Gallows interference throughout all of this, leading to like, a bit of a groan-inducing expected finish. Tama, I thought, showed decent fire here, but yeah, no, it was just an okay match to me.
I do like Tama Tonga in the babyface role, but yeah, fine match. Not one that I would say you have to go out of your way to see. What I will recommend is the King of Pro Wrestling match between Shingo Takagi and Taichi. 10 minutes on the clock, and it's the most pinfalls or just counts that you can generate in those 10 minutes. Dude, this was so exciting. They had a ticker in the bottom box. They had the countdown clock, and by the time it's like 11-6 for Takagi with 30 seconds left, Taichi uses a ghetto clutch to get a 3 count, and Shingo kicks out at 4, then goes for another cover, and Takagi kicks out at 1. So it's 11-10. He goes for one final cover, but time expires. This was so fun at the end, and I thought 10 minutes was the perfect length. I think 15 or 20, this would have dragged a bit. I thought this was the best King of Pro Wrestling match I have seen of all the different stipulations we have had. I know that's somewhat faint praise, but I thought this worked really well.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought, much like Iron Man matches or beat the clock challenges, anytime you have a countdown scenario, you always tend to get a pretty good rush towards the finish. And you had that here. The thing I think that makes this work is not necessarily just the concept itself, but I think the fact that you have two very good performers. I really enjoyed the first time that these guys tried something like this. So maybe for that reason, I didn't necessarily find this one as novel. In many ways, it just felt like a 10-minute extension of what you got the first time. But I enjoyed the compactness. I enjoyed the sprinting nature of this match. And as a way to break up what can feel like a very monotonous style in New Japan throughout this evening of like many matches, I more than welcome it, something like this. And we know that like King of Pro Wrestling is a fluid concept, and stipulations change every single match, but I wouldn't mind it if like, promotion out there or even New Japan themselves kind of ran with this as a bit more of a staple once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, one of the criticisms of an Iron Man match is that you have to beat the opponent so many times. They have to take all these pinfall losses. This was like one each. Taichi, he did pin him with the ghetto clutch, but you also make near falls matter. You make 1 counts matter. Like there's a whole strategy to it that is not that often explored, that they've kind of fallen into here, that I think this is something that they have at their disposal, that they could really, again, set this weird King of Pro Wrestling concept apart. And that was this whole thing. This was essentially a let's throw all this stuff against the wall and see what sticks. And frankly, a lot of it is not for me, but this stuff has worked. And I like the 30 count match as well, that they tried as well. So I think you have found some interesting tools you can use in the future for this concept. The main event, Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Hiroki Goto. Winner gets a flight to Chicago for Forbidden Door. And this was a fine match. They went 12 minutes and 39 seconds and saw Tanahashi, after a couple near falls from Goto, he just fires up, aces high fly flow, and he wins in 12:39. This just felt like a very much, this is the final obstacle for Tanahashi to get to this match that everyone knows he's going to have. And why waste a whole lot of drama in a foregone conclusion? That's kind of what this felt like, Way.
Honestly, by the end, it just felt like an exhibition match for Tanahashi. I'm not really privy to like what sort of intentions or motivation Goto might have to win the interim AEW World Heavyweight Championship, but I honestly had zero interest going into seeing this combination. But I thought, in ring, it was a good quality match. At least one decent near fall from Goto, which I don't think anybody, was expecting, which is about as big of a win, I would say, for a match like this with, I think, as obvious of an outcome. But beyond that, no real drama nor engagement for me. I think a lot of that comes down to, Goto, very solid in ring, but his personality just really does nothing for me.
I didn't even see like even a promo from Goto that you could have utilized for the English market, of the fact that Goto holds a win over Moxley when they met in the G1, like something that gives you some reason for Goto to have any kind of a chance here. And it just seemed like everyone knew what the outcome was here, and we just had to put Tanahashi through hoops on this show for no reason, but the right person won. So there you have it. Chase Owens and Bad Luck Fale lost the tag titles to Great O'Khan and Jeff Cobb. They went, I don't have the time in front of me here, but it ended when Owens avoided the Tour of the Islands, hit a pair of C-triggers, and then it was O'Khan with a belly-to-belly to Owens off the top, and then the Tour of the Islands pinning Owens. They win the titles, and then it was Rocky Romero that runs in and gets hit with the Eliminator, and certainly sending you in the direction of at least Roppongi Vice, if not FTR as well, having some involvement with this IWGP tag title match and the expected title change going into this show that most assumed.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of promotion, I guess a lot of like setting the stage for your Forbidden Door matchups. And I guess you can already see what's coming here. I mean, Rocky really, I think, had quite the plan to fly all the way here. He's going to like come out hoping that, I guess, O'Khan and Cobb were going to win the championships. They did. So everything was going to plan, comes out and just gets beaten up with no backup. So quite the flight for, just to take
and abandon Trent on Friday on Rampage. So yeah, this was a terrible plan by Roppongi Vice.
Yeah, I have a pretty mild interest in this one. I mean, we wait to see if like FTR are attached to it. We wait to see if it's some sort of 3-way, 4-way tag team match or a multi-man match involving the rest of the United Empire. But I mean, to me, it just doesn't feel big unless if it's a multi-man setting. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The rest of the show, I'll just read off the results here. We had Evil, Yujiro, and Sho retaining the never openweight 6-man titles against Zack Sabre Jr., El Desperado, and Yoshinobu Kanemaru. The news out of that one was backstage, Zack Sabre Jr. issuing the challenge to the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson.
Oh, see, this is a card right now that honestly probably, needs something because Mox Tanahashi is big, but that itself, especially when you had Punk versus Tanahashi dangling out there, is not enough. And now you're taking things down a little bit of a notch by having Page versus White instead of Page versus Okada. So we do need something that is of a dream match level. And Bryan versus Zack Sabre would definitely at least fill that for, fans of both promotions.
Yeah, they've got to run this promo on Dynamite and then have Danielson's response. For sure. I would want to see this promo air on AEW programming. Toru Yano beat Doc Gallows. Taiji Ishimori, El Phantasmo, and Ace Austin defeating Naito, Hiromu, and Bushi after Phantasmo pinned Bushi. And the opener saw Aaron Hanare, Francesco Akira, and TJP over Hiroshi Tenzan, Ryusuke Taguchi, and Master Wato. What was your overall opinion of Dominion? This did not... there was news coming out of the show. You had several title changes on the show, the biggest being Jay White winning this title. But I saw this very much as a mixed bag show.
That was the case for me. I'm somebody who's only keeping up with New Japan through some of these bigger shows, and I thus had mild interest, I would say, in a lot of the feuds. And I was just really strictly looking on paper how interested they were. It still felt very much, even though we're opening up the borders to a lot more of the international talent, that is probably freshening up these cards a bit more, and we'll talk about that when we talk about the G1 rosters. But it still feels like a very kind of closed, New Japan matches that we've already seen before type of setting. When the rest of the world, at least when it comes to professional wrestling in AEW, feels that so open and so much more exciting.
Yeah, and I would say now that this card is out of the way, I do hope that the build for Forbidden Door really takes off at this point. I would say you have, at least now we have some direction for it, but I very much get like a mixed sense of this show and what kind of a card it's going to look like and people's overall interest in it. It is, the fact that you are charging for this show as opposed to this just being available on New Japan World, for instance. There's going to be very high expectations for this card. And now with Dominion out of the way, you have 2 weeks to build up this show, which is not the longest time in the world, but I would want to have most of this card figured out by the end of Dynamite on Wednesday.
Well, yeah. I'm guessing it's going to be one of those Excalibur, here are all the matches that you're going to get types of scenarios. I don't think.
Do you imagine Excalibur announcing the G1 participants?
Boy, yeah.
28 men.
Hey, the voice guy that they have for those New Japan like videos he's quite great. So it's kind of hard to
Excalibur's
beat
learn.
that.
You could have a guy record this in advance. Are you kidding me? I could do this in
Uh,
pre-production.
but
So
yeah, no, a lot of these matches you're going to get for Forbidden Door. Like I'm guessing have a number of them announced, probably this Wednesday, and it's just going to be like, hey, title for title, or like I don't know, this guy versus this guy without that much build in between. So on paper, this show will kind of have to like speak for itself.
So the G1, they announced a 28-person field for the annual tournament that kicks off July the 16th. And the names are as follows: Kazuchika Okada, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Tetsuya Naito, Hiroki Goto, Tamatonga, Shingo Takagi, Chase Owens, Bad Luck Fale, Yujiro, Evil, Tom Lawler, Juice Robinson, Jonah, Yoshihashi, Toriano, Tomohiro Ishii, Jeff Cobb, The Great Okan, Will Ospreay, Aaron Hanare, Sonata, Jay White, Kenta, El Phantasmo, Taichi, Zack Sabre Jr., Lance Archer, and David Finlay. So we will be getting 4 blocks with 7 wrestlers per block. So they will have less singles matches this year with 6 singles matches before they get into the finals. What did the field, what jumped out at you, Wei?
Well, first of all, the change of the concept is interesting. You know, so does this mean more shows or same amount of shows?
It's the same amount of show, and we know the shows because they've announced all of them. But it'll be,
okay.
but I mean, given the number of people, it'll be overall more matches, I believe.
Right. Okay, so basically same amount of shows, but like more of the shows on the card will be G1 related rather than just
Yeah,
the
I'd have to do the
counterparts.
math about like the exact
Okay.
matches and such. But yeah,
Yeah, my reaction to the roster on the outset, it's a bit of a disappointment. I think considering I think the what perhaps the best of the super juniors kind of like showed us was that we would get some sort of involvement from CMLL, Impact, and AEW, and I think AEW is probably the number one thing that at least maybe Western audiences are looking for contributions from, with names being batted around like a Bryan Danielson or John Moxley. And I think knowing current circumstances with what restrictions still are, and also the fact that those are 2 top names that I don't think AEW or Tony Khan is willing to let go at this moment. Maybe we over expected, but we do have Lance Archer, which got the biggest reaction, arguably, from the live audience.
he got a
right?
huge reaction, and frankly, he means more there than I think he does to an AEW fan base at home.
Mhm.
And I think that's where you have to measure it. Like this was, I would say, I expected like some New Japan Strong representation. The fact that there's no one from Impact on this because Jonah's no longer there. And so essentially, you don't really have like that big, really looking at the Impact roster, I would say the only candidates you would assume would have any potential of being in this would be a Josh Alexander or a Moose. I think that's probably would have been the only likely candidates for it. I'm with you. I think like that one sizable AEW name would have, that's what everyone had their sights set on. But I think you have to look at what you mentioned, the restrictions and the fact that I don't think AEW wants to part with any of its big stars for a 4-week period. That's a lot to give up.
And Impact, for that matter, even though they're on a different taping schedule.
Impact, I would make that sacrifice, even if it was my world champion. But they're in a different boat.
But I'm very excited to see like what some of these fresh faces have to offer, and especially Tom Lawler. Somebody. Imagine if a professional wrestling podcaster won the G1, John. How great would that be for? Right, I know he represents Team Filthy. I know he represents the UFC, but to me, he also represents professional wrestling, podcasting, and journalism, which would be really fun to see. I look forward to seeing how he mixes them in there.
Ospreay's back.
Ospreay's back.
That's
David,
a big gain from the last tournament. No Kota Ibushi.
Mm-hmm.
No Kushida. If anyone was kind of looking at a potential of Kushida coming back as a heavyweight, and there is like junior heavyweight representation in here with El Phantasmo.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what he looks like. Guys like David Finlay and Aaron Hanare, finally making the jump and getting the call up from C Block, to enter. Well, I guess now there's going to be A, B, C, and D Block. So maybe retaining the C Block championship is David Finlay. But yeah, those guys I think have a lot to prove. It's does this maybe diminish the prestige of the G1 though, in your opinion, John? Like, because we look at the G1 and the accomplishment of simply being a part of it as something big, somebody having to wrestle 10 matches, or is it 9? 10 or 9 matches?
Nine was the
9
previous.
matches, okay.
Yeah.
And now being taken down to 6. Still
that part doesn't matter to me much. I think the pandemic brought down the prestige of the G1 for the last 2 years of it. This one, I think it's an improvement upon the last one. You can certainly make it arguable. Losing Kota Ibushi is a big loss, even when Ibushi wasn't at 100% for last year's G1. And that would have been, it's obvious, like I'm not advocating that he should have been in this tournament, but you did have that story about the way he went out last October and coming back in this year's G1. But obviously, he's not healthy enough to do so. So you can make that argument. I think Ospreay being back is a big help to this. But it does shine a spotlight on the depth. And this is a tournament that seems tailor-made to hopefully create some stars coming out of it. Because going in, I think like it's a very small number that you're looking at as viable contenders that will be there going into the final 2 to 3 shows.
Yeah. I understand if you're New Japan, you probably
and there's no defense of Yujiro being in this. I don't care if it's a 100-man tournament. Just the bane of my existence in these G1s.
I mean, I suppose the defense is that because now you have 4 blocks, you need somebody to take the pinfalls in almost every single one of these blocks. And Yujiro certainly fulfills one of those roles. Yano always fulfills one of those roles. That's the only reason I can come up with.
You could have put Yuto Nakashima in this to lose every single night, and I would not complain. Put one of your young lions in instead of Yujiro. Like what is Yujiro benefiting from at this point? The guy has just been in a perpetual state of stasis in this company, year after year after year.
Or for that matter, maybe this is a spot for one of your international talents, whether it be from Strong or whether it be from AEW, or to just kind of come in and do the job for a lot of these guys. But still, being a part of the G1 adds a level of prestige to some of those guys. So, yeah, I mean, I understand if you're New Japan, you're probably going to want to give a lot of these spots to your talent that's already there. But that comes to me at the expense of the type of freshness that I think a lot of maybe what at this point our lapsed New Japan fans are looking for. And I don't necessarily feel like you have as much of that as I think we were all expecting.
Okay, let's touch a bit upon CyberFight Festival, which also took place on Sunday. And by the way, we have some great reports up on the site over the weekend with Mark Buckledy reviewing Dominion, Karen Peterson reviewing CyberFight Festival, John Cena has a report on the NWA pay-per-view from Saturday night, and Eric Marcotte going through UFC 275. But CyberFight Festival, headlined by Satoshi Kojima winning the GHC Heavyweight Championship, ending the 5th title reign of Go Shiozaki after 21 minutes and 11 seconds. I have not seen this card yet, but Kojima winning the title I don't think was unexpected. He is obviously going to be in here for at least some sort of a run, and his first title defense will be against Keno on July 16th, the same night that the G1 opens, where they are running Budokan Hall on that day. So that will be Noah's next major event. Other highlights of the show included Shoko Nakajima defeating Yuka Sakazaki to retain the Princess of Princess Championship, and the announcement that Keiji Muto will be retiring next spring. This is like Jay Leno announcing that I will be passing the torch to Conan O'Brien in 5 years. If I feel like it.
Is Keiji Muto the Jay Leno?
He is totally the Jay Leno. That's the first comparison I had when I saw this news, that I will be retiring next spring.
Yeah, and he always shows up and takes the big spots for somehow. Well, yeah, certainly some news coming out of this show, and whatever criticism there has been of Pro Wrestling Noah favoring the veteran over.
Is he going to have a title run? Is he going to go for the title in his last match, or is he going to win the title before his last match?
Well, I believe in this interview that Andrew Thompson has transcribed for us, I believe he says those days are behind him, but of course you never know.
Then he's going to turn around and face them.
Well, he will challenge. I will say that for sure. He will challenge, but run, I don't know, man.
We'll see.
Yeah, Kojima as the champion? What do you think?
I think it's worthwhile. Like, he's here. He's a big name for Noah. I think it's if you're looking at your alternatives being Kazuki Fujita in this role or Satoshi Kojima, I am much more interested in seeing Kojima wrestle a Keno or a Nakajima or a rematch with Go than I am seeing Fujita in this spot, for instance. Also on this show, worth noting, is Tetsuya Endo suffered a concussion during the 6-man Noah versus DDT match. He was involved in a striking exchange with Katsuhiko Nakajima, and he was just knocked silly, and the match was called off. It was later diagnosed as a concussion, and obviously timetable to be determined, but hopefully a quick recovery for Tetsuya Endo, which Nakajima, that is certainly one of the risks you run when you are having a striking exchange with the man.
Yeah, this was one of the gifs coming off of this show that I think we're spreading around pretty quickly, and man, some of the shit is.
Dude, if you've seen Nakajima's matches, like, it's captivating to watch, but also scary as shit to watch.
Yeah, like, we know wrestling is supposed to be fake, but shit, like these striking exchanges are sometimes all too real, and this was a case where keeping it real went wrong.
One other New Japan note that we wanted to also include is that next week they have announced for the New Japan Road shows a 4-man tournament to determine who will be New Japan's representative into the All Atlantic tournament to qualify for the 4-way at Forbidden Door on June 26th. Raise of hands if you're still with me on what is going on here with everyone's favorite championship.
It's not honestly that complicated, or as complicated as I think what we've been through this week. But in most cases, I think brackets are the best way to explain the story.
This is a visual industry. So on Monday at the Korakuen Hall show, Tomohiro Ishii will take on Yoshinobu Kanemaru, and Tomoaki Honma will take on Clark Connors. The winner of those two matches will face off the next Tuesday, in the same venue. The winner of that goes to Forbidden Door to join Pac, the winner of Ethan Page and Miro, and the winner of Malachi Black against Penta Oscuro. So I think most will be looking at Ishii to come out of this, and that, the potential of a 4-way with Pac, I would assume Miro, Malachi Black, and Ishii. That sounds like a terrific 4-way match.
Absolutely, yeah. Now, can they be swerving us, and could it be Honma,
or Connors?
Or Kanemaru? Yeah. So sorry. Yeah. I mean, I think Ishii looks to be the front runner for a match like that. And could it be Tomohiro Ishii? Is it a 4-way that they say that? Yeah. Fatal 4-way. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. No, I think the addition of Ishii adds a whole lot to that match.
All right. WWE news coming out of the weekend. NXT had their first live events back on the road, but the notable news item was a report from Dave Meltzer at the Wrestling Observer newsletter that Troy Two Dimes Donovan has been released by WWE. It's only been reported as a policy issue, and Donovan did send out a tweet acknowledging that he made a mistake and apologized, but they did not go into any detail about what policy this was, just citing it as a mistake. And it just sounds like on the surface way something that they had to take some kind of action on, but I don't know. I don't really want to speculate on what it was, but it just seems like it was some kind of issue. And this guy, they were just getting this guy started with Stacks, and I mean, in essence, they could probably just take any other person out of the Performance Center and put them in the same outfit and just say this is Two Dimes.
I barely learned their names, before I grew any sort of attachment to this person. But I mean, it seems like it's the type of infringement that it is not going to necessarily harm his long term, right? Wasn't it also said in this report that he would be brought back? He might be brought back in a year's time.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I would hope for this guy's sake, hopefully it was just some logistical issue that he had to get through, and it doesn't reflect poorly. But I don't know if he's made too much of an impression yet, for there to be at least as big of a demand as maybe for a lot of people when they get released like that. But yeah, no, it's unfortunate. While the guy is just getting his shot,
It reminded me of the time that they had to let David Finlay go when they did the interruption of the national anthem, and they got blowback for that, and somebody had to take the fall, and it was Finlay, and then they brought him back the next year once things had cooled off. Obviously, this is probably a different situation than that, but one of those things where they had to take action, but probably doesn't disqualify him from being brought back when the time is right. So there you go. That was your WWE news. Tonight, Raw takes place from Wichita, Kansas, and we're going to get the follow-up to whatever is going on with the Judgment Day. The Judgment Day returned to Raw with a new direction.
Mm-hmm.
Exciting.
Yeah.
What galaxy will they be part of tonight?
A galaxy. I don't know, but I certainly hope it means a change in, speaking direction. If that's the new direction that they're referring to for the group.
Do these three not display the demeanors of three individuals that have just been told what this new direction is going to be for the group?
This is a live picture from like their talent production meeting, perhaps. Yeah. I mean, there have been reports out there that this was a group that was set to take on a more supernatural direction before maybe Edge did not feel as in line with that new direction. So you would think that the supernatural is where we're headed with this group.
All right. So maybe they'll come out to Katy Perry and we'll get the new direction. And then Seth freaking Rollins will answer for his attack on Cody Rhodes.
Seth freaking Rollins, Seth Franklin Rollins, whatever the people are calling him these days. Sure, why not?
That's Raw. So set aside 3 hours tonight for the answers to those burning questions, and we will be back tonight with Rewind to Raw, which is always a super time chatting Raw with Wai.
It always is. It also is a super time to chat with members of the Post Wrestling live audience here at youtube.com/Post Wrestling. And today's edition of Post Daily News is sponsored by one Rory, because he sent 3 super chats, John, denominations of $8 Australian for each one. And the first of which, he says, "I love Dominion. So much fun and feels close to a New Japan show of 3 to 4 years ago. Jay was incredible, and if this lets Okada get ready for his new baby, so be it." Okay, yes, something we did not discuss. An expectant father is Kazuchika Okada.
Is his child not due till August? Isn't that what he said?
Mm-hmm. I believe so. Yeah.
How does this get him ready for his child? He's in the G1. It's
you're right. He's going to be in the G1.
Like, wait, do you have to get ready right now for something that's happening in August?
Well, no, but if I was holding a championship, I mean, I would probably drop it at the closest big show, and maybe this. But
he's doing the G1, like he's booked, whether he has the title or not. So yeah, that's much closer to August than right now.
Right.
So
yeah,
I don't know if this has anything to do with having a child. I think this has to do with the booking direction they want to go in.
He also says Carl Anderson felt like he was home, and I love that. The Juice story is fun. Is that a match at Forbidden Door? Pumped for Forbidden Door. New Japan is coming back big. Jay got cheers. The Juice story is fun. You mean the story of him getting appendicitis?
That was not fun. No. I think it was very bizarre, the fact that they announced this match after it was known he had appendicitis, and then had to very hastily strip him of the title 2 days before the show.
That was incredibly strange, the way all of that unfolded.
Very unlike New Japan as well. So, like, that very much felt like the left hand not knowing what the right was doing.
Well, yeah, like, because Kevin Kelly did let us know, even like the day of that the appendicitis news came out, that Juice suffered that that news and was taken to a local medical facility in Japan. So they explained on the broadcast today or yesterday that he was given like some sort of medication that allowed him to potentially delay a surgery for like a week, and that's how New Japan gave him the clearance to have this match. And then Juice himself, I guess, flew back to America and denied the
with all these news items, I think we're going to introduce a new segment on the show. It's called "I'm Not a Doctor, but." I don't know what medication I would be getting that delays my potential surgery so that I can go and crash and fall down as part of my living to come back for a surgery of that nature. I don't know what my doctor would say about that. I would imagine that it's not cool. Great idea.
Yeah. Could it have? You're absolutely right, John. Could it just have been like the embarrassment of wanting to, strip yet another U.S. champion of the belt, which they ended up having to do anyway?
I
God.
have no idea, but it felt very disorganized from the fact that you knew about this health issue, then you announced the match, and then you had to pull the match back for the most obvious of reasons. It just felt like miscommunication instead of realizing appendicitis. You know what? We're not announcing a match involving this guy. That doesn't sound like the best idea. Much like booking Jeff Hardy in a ladder match this week doesn't sound like the best idea. I'm not a doctor, but
Chris also has a great name in this chat. Call it post-op. So we could do that too. Yes. Rory also says, I was happy to hear the crowd reactions to Archer, Finley, ELP, and Lawler. Really interested to see how the 4 blocks goes. Chris and Kevin at Forbidden Door is great. That is correct. They will be in Chicago.
that is right.
Yes. So what's the team you think we'll get on commentary?
I
Do they
think you should
alternate?
put everyone in the booth. I want Jim Ross, Excalibur, Taz, Tony Schiavone, Chris Jericho, Mark Henry, Ricky Starks,
Big
Kevin
Show.
Kelly, Big Show, everyone.
They should
Every single
alternate.
person. I just want like a CNN panel on election night. That's what I want. Dana Bash can be right in the middle of it all.
They can just surround the ring completely, like a lumberjack match.
That's right.
And they can call they can alternate moves, every single person down the thing. Bruce Lord sends $5. Thank you for the support, Bruce. Bruce says that shame that Muto's last run will be remembered for cronyism and awful matches. Muto, Fujita, and Co.'s booking has effectively killed my interest in Noah.
You know what? That will be a sentiment that always exists for Muto. When he retires, it's going to be a huge deal, and he is going to be celebrated for being an enduring legend. I don't think like that to me is a very much like in the bubble opinion, and then like we're all like kind of in that bubble with. A year from now, when that retirement is done, it's going to be treated like a very big deal involving Muto.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
As he joins his knees that retired 2 decades ago.
Yeah, we're not unfamiliar with like retirements that probably should go, have gone on a little bit too long in professional
Dude, it's going to be
wrestling.
the same as Ric Flair's thing. For like all the negativity, that crowd is going to go wild for him. It's sold out instantly without a match announcement. Like, granted, like it's the Nashville Fairgrounds, but they have sold that out, and it's going to be the same. That you're going to get it. Like there is, like once you are like it's that hero worship that once you are of that level, you're always going to be perceived at that level, regardless of whatever shortcomings an individual may have and valid criticisms that you could have towards them.
And speaking of Muto, Jake sends 250. Thank you for the super chat, Jake. He says, what would be your go-to Muto matches?
Man, 2001 with Tenryu, just because of the nature of where each was in their careers at that point. And it was like 2001 of, oh my God, Muto's turning the clock back. He's come back. He shaved his head. 2001 was like, man, this guy's getting a renaissance in his career. And here we are 21 years later. I mean, you could go to so many, the first G1. I mean, you could go through a whole long list of them.
Yeah, honestly, my knowledge of Keiji Muto is not as high as some of these others from New Japan Past, but I think like one that still sticks out to me is Jushin Liger versus the Great Muta, the one where like Liger unmasked and you see, I believe Kishin Liger is the name of it. That was from October of '96. In fact, there's a edition of Thunderstruck that WH Park did talking about that one. So
the Nobuhiko Takada program that they had was just, it did phenomenal business in 1995. Like that was a huge deal if you go to watch that, and Muto kind of representing pro wrestling and representing New Japan as well. But yeah, you could do, you could certainly go through just a ton of different stuff with Muto from his NWA run in the late 80s as well. Not so much the 2000 run in WCW, but there you go.
Yeah, and thank you all you guys for your super chats. Very active chat room here on a Monday. And thank you everybody for joining us. John and I will be back tonight.
That's right. We're back tonight, 11 Eastern, minutes after Raw goes off the air from Wichita, Kansas. So join us here at youtube.com/postwrestling. You can subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up on the video. And then tomorrow we're back with the new show. Martin Bushby of the British Wrestling Experience will be joining us.
Speaking of retirement tours, we are on the Martin Bushby retirement tour.
That's right. That's right. We're going to find out if he's going to be putting anybody over on the way out this Thursday. Very special edition of the BWE coming out Thursday with some special guests that will be joining him. So we'll chat with Martin on Tuesday and working on some other big things for the week ahead. So postwrestling.com is your home base. If you'd like to support us, postwrestlingcafe.com for bonus shows coming your way this week. And that is it for your Post Daily News Show.